God's grace and peace be upon you and your loved ones as we continue today reflecting upon the encyclical of Pope Francis, Fratelli Tutti, in which he is speaking to his brothers, speaking to all of us. Chapter 6 of this important encyclical is focused upon dialogue and friendship in society. Dialogue and friendship begin, of course, within human relationships. He keeps emphasizing the importance of the art of encounter. We find this in a very real way in the relationships we have with one another. How often when we are having a discussion, especially when we have a disagreement with another person, that we're not listening to them, but we are simply waiting to get our opinion put forward. He says that is not how dialogue works. Dialogue involves our careful listening to the other so that we can begin together to find a solution to what are the difficulties that we face. He writes this, he says, approaching, speaking, listening, looking at, coming to know and understanding one another, and to find common ground. All these things are summed up in the one word, dialogue. That's what makes marriage flourish. It's what builds peace in society. It's what enables communities to grow, not because they are all the same, but that they have a common way of resolving their difficulties, of learning to listen and respect one another. Pope Francis will go on to write, a country flourishes when constructive dialogue occurs between its many rich cultural components: popular culture, university culture, youth culture, artistic culture, technological culture, economic culture, family culture, media culture. All of these ways in which cultures come together and need to learn to live with one another. Dialogue ends, in fact, it never really begins, when people enter into a relationship with another person, or when nations enter into a relationship with other nations, when they fail to see things from the other perspective. When we do marriage preparation, we invite couples to listen to one another. And the person who's listening, before they have a chance to speak, they are to repeat back what they've heard. How hard that is sometimes, because we are so ready with our argument that we aren't listening to the other person. That is certainly true when we look at our culture of dialogue and relationships in our society and within families. He reminds us not to forget that differences are creative. He says they create tension. And in the resolution of tension lies humanity's progress. He says, unfortunately, roundtables or mediation sometimes involves negotiating, in which each individual or each nation attempts to seize every possible advantage, to have one up on the other person, rather than cooperating in the pursuit of the common good. Yesterday I spoke about the importance of a new politics. Politics that is not built upon dialogue is built upon confrontation, and we see that in spades, not only in our own country but throughout the world, as ideologies and viewpoints dominate and fail to give opportunity for the other person to speak and together to come to a common understanding. The solution, he says, is not relativism, which means that everything is up for grabs and everybody can believe what they want. Often under the guise of tolerance, we permit things to happen which are not for the common good. Rather, we are invited to the art of encounter, that culture of encounter, which invites us to be ever attentive to what the other is saying, and to approach dialogue not from the point of view of confrontation, but from the point of view of kindness, I want to conclude with the words he concludes this chapter with. He says, kindness frees us from the cruelty that at times infects human relationships, from the anxiety that prevents us from thinking of others, from the frantic flurry of activity that forgets that others also have a right to be happy, that others also have a right to their opinion, to their perspective. Kindness is at the heart of the encounter of dialogue. May God bless you and all those who share in reading this beautiful encyclical of Pope Francis as we seek deeper and deeper to enter into the art of the encounter.